I'm Wes Brooks, and I have the privilege of serving as Florida's Chief Resilience Officer. Even though I'm unable to be with you all at the 2024 Southwest Florida Climate Summit, I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to share an update on Florida's resilience efforts with you all. I came into this role over 2 years ago, empowered to communicate, coordinate, and innovate with a priority focus on mitigating the impacts of flooding and sea level rise across our low-lying, storm-prone state. And in that time, I've been able to visit the amazing diversity of urban, suburban, rural, and natural spaces spread across every county in Florida, listening to local officials, stakeholders, and flood-impacted residents to better understand each community's unique vulnerabilities and resilience needs. I've worked with cities and counties looking to prevent disasters by enhancing natural infrastructure or proactively expanding stormwater systems. I've also witnessed the heartbreak and humanity that enveloped inland and coastal communities alike after the severe flood impacts of Hurricanes Ian, Nicole, and Idalia. Let me tell you what I've learned from these experiences. First, we have to set some real expectations. We're never going to eliminate flood risk in Florida. Full stop. It's neither practical nor economically feasible. Instead, we'll need to continue to define and accept certain levels of flood risk. But it's also clear to me that governments have a real responsibility to better communicate those risk thresholds to Floridians, and in ways that translate to the way people live their daily lives. Just as importantly, in circumstances where the expected level of service for flood protection may be underperforming or even declining, it's critical that impacted residents have the information and due process to seek accountability from the appropriate authorities. Second, there are significant opportunities to improve floodplain function and stormwater management across our state. And better yet, many flood solutions can bring environmental and water quality improvements, even if we can't always meaningfully quantify them. We must continue to revive previously missed opportunities through redevelopment and adaptation as we ensure that new infrastructure is built with an eye towards the future and mindful of the lessons of the past. Third, preserving natural and working landscapes is a critical insurance policy to help mitigate any future flood impacts that may result from changing land use and climate patterns. Florida's environmental and agricultural land conservation programs, as well as the Florida Wildlife Corridor, are critical elements to protecting natural hydrological connections where they still remain and maintaining as much groundwater recharge potential as possible. Our communities should take advantage of maintaining as much natural stormwater as we can and continue working to fully restore that particular ecosystem function wherever it's been degraded. Finally, despite my overexposure to disaster news and the stream of research on flood risks and impacts as a major side effect of my day job, I'm more confident than ever that we're on the right track in building a more resilient state. In fact, because of Governor DeSantis' bold vision and leadership, I'm really confident in saying that Florida is leading the nation on resilience through a strategy of cooperative and targeted adaptation. In part, that's because state government is working more closely than ever before with counties, with municipalities, with special districts, all identifying flood-vulnerable infrastructure and implementing effective resilience solutions. Under Executive Order 2306, Governor DeSantis directed the Chief Resilience Officer and the Department of Environmental Protection to support the completion of comprehensive flood vulnerability assessments for every county and municipality in Florida by 2026. To date, DEP has awarded more than 230 planning grants, totaling nearly $50 million. Upon awarding the next $20 million in planning grants this fiscal year, all 67 counties and nearly 90% of our 411 municipalities will be on the path to completing a statutorily compliant vulnerability assessment. This already includes every county and municipality in the Southwest Florida region. And when we meet the governor's directive statewide, I believe Florida will be the first state in the country to have assessed the flood vulnerability of virtually every critical asset and infrastructure within its borders. We're also ensuring the best-in-class science and flood modeling is informing local, regional, and state projects to adapt communities to current and future flood risk. In the Florida Flood Hub, we're amassing all flood data and modeling capabilities from our state agencies, our water management districts, advanced local governments, and the private sector to provide a statewide picture of flood risk and to ensure that every community has access to the scientific and technical information, as well as expertise necessary to evaluate flood risks and to identify practical solutions. And once we've identified practical solutions, the statewide Office of Resilience and our agency partners work to facilitate the implementation of those solutions at every scale possible. Governor DeSantis' unmatched commitments are enhancing the environmental and resilience benefits for millions of Floridians living in proximity to and dependent upon our treasured coasts, our significant wetlands, and other spectacular hydrological resources here in the state of Florida. We've invested nearly $5 billion for water quality improvements and ecosystem restoration work from Tampa Bay to the Indian River Lagoon, from the Everglades to Apalachicola Bay, all across our renowned springs, and even in Florida's coral reef. In the last 3 years, Florida's flagship resilience program, the Resilient Florida program at DEP, has awarded another $1.2 billion towards locally developed resilience projects on the statewide resilience plan, altogether catalyzing more than $2.4 billion in direct investments in Florida's future. Another directive in Executive Order 20306 also ensures that the Florida Department of Transportation is now accounting for water quality and flood mitigation benefits in all its resilience planning and implementation. And following the aftermath of the 2022 and 2023 hurricanes, Florida is dispersing hundreds of millions in funding for beach and dune shoreline recovery, plus more than $1 billion for local mitigation projects to avoid future disaster losses through the combined efforts of the Division of Emergency Management and Florida Commerce. These investments and directives are historic, but when considered in light of the massive demographic growth we're experiencing, welcoming nearly 900 new Floridians each day, the governor's leadership on the environment will leave a lasting and vital legacy throughout our state. Back to expectation setting, we have to acknowledge that the Florida Peninsula will always be a dynamic place. That's why we're so focused on adaptation. We don't have a choice. Flood impacts are already happening, and more changes, whether through climate impacts, the growth of Florida's population or relative wealth, or land use shifts, is and will always be inevitable. But we believe with the right investments, in the right infrastructure, and in the right places, not only can we reduce the magnitude and duration of flood impacts, we can actually drive a sustainable feedback cycle of enhanced resilience. With cost-effective adaptations, the negative, repetitive costs from flood damages that would otherwise be incurred over time on individuals, on businesses, on taxpayers may instead be saved. Those cost savings can, in turn, be reinvested in the community and drive additional economic activity that supports and increases the value of future adaptations and provides easier access to the affordable capital necessary to finance them. Over time, communities with successful track records of attracting investment and making decisions with an eye to the future will be stronger for it, with more financial flexibility, and certainly better positioned to withstand whatever impending changes keep on coming. At the statewide Office of Resilience, we want to connect every local government in Florida to the array of opportunities available to harness the potential of adaptation to build the resilient communities their residents desire and deserve. If we're successful, Floridians will continue to experience improvements in their quality of life and will also ensure Florida's economic and environmental vitality for future generations. It won't be easy, but as Floridians, we know a little something about overcoming adversity and refusing to shrink away from the challenges presented by an ever-changing world. The governor and I believe that through our ongoing efforts to tackle the impacts of sea level rise and flooding, we can protect and enhance the prosperity of our communities and ultimately preserve Florida's character as a place overflowing with promise and opportunity for all. I look forward to continuing our work with Jennifer Hecker, the Coastal and Heartland National Estuary Program, and each and every one of you to build that resilient and hopeful future for Southwest Florida and the rest of our great state.